The knock came just after midnight. 3 dull raps. Measured, polite. The kind of knock that knows it carries weight. I almost didn't answer. Years of silence had taught me that no one came to my door with good news. But the knocking persisted. Slow, patient, deliberate. When I opened it, a man in a dark overcoat stood beneath the flickering porch light. His briefcase gleamed even in the dullness of the night. "Mr. Hayes," he said, his voice steady, "I represent the estate of Dr. Latham." I frowned. The name meant nothing to me. He smiled faintly, as though expecting that. The late Dr. Latham instructed that, upon his passing, a certain individual be located and informed of a matter of inheritance. Inheritance? The word felt foreign in my mouth. He placed a folder in my hands. Thick, heavy, sealed in legal plastic. $63 million, he said quietly, to fund independent medical research under your name. My name. I stared at the embossed lettering on the folder. My pulse was calm, almost too calm. "Why me?" I asked. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "The donor specifically requested you, Mr. Hayes, and your ex-wife, Mrs. Amelia Hayes." The air in my throat turned sharp. 5 years of silence. 5 years since she left me, broken, bald, and dying, because I was too expensive to save. And now, her name was bound to mine again. Cancer had stripped me down to bone and shadow. She stripped me of everything else. Amelia didn't leave dramatically. No tears, no pleading. Just a folded note on the kitchen counter beside an untouched dinner. "I can't live like this anymore. You're too expensive to save." I read it once, twice, then placed it in a drawer beside my medical bills. Hundreds of them stacked like gravestones. When the chemo ended and I didn't, I crawled back into life quietly. Worked night shifts, cleaned offices, stacked boxes, 3 jobs to stay alive and invisible. I didn't think of her often, but sometimes, when exhaustion blurred the world into static, I'd see her face again, calm, cold, convinced she'd made the logical choice. And now, she was being written into a dead man's will. My will, by proxy. I flipped through the documents that night, scanning for meaning. It was there, buried deep in the legal phrasing. Funds to be dispersed jointly to the surviving test subject and his legally registered spouse at the time of initial diagnosis. Test subject. Spouse. Dr. Latham? Amelia. My stomach tightened. The doctor who had handled my clinical trial, the man who said there were no more options, had died and left a fortune behind. And he wanted her included. I started digging. Old emails, clinic records, appointment summaries, everything I'd archived out of some desperate need for closure. The pattern emerged slowly. Latham's signature appeared on payment authorizations not tied to the trial. Personal transfers, filed under special participant care. Recipient, A. Hayes. Amelia. At first, I thought it was some clerical overlap, a refund, a logistical quirk. But the deeper I went, the clearer it became. She'd been receiving payments during my treatment. Large ones, regular. I checked the dates. The first payment arrived the same week she told me the treatment was pointless. The last one came the month she disappeared. I reached out to the lawyer again, asked how Dr. Latham had died. "Heart failure," he said, in his sleep. "Was he married?" A pause. "Divorced. No children." The pieces shifted into place. Terribly, beautifully. He had funded my survival. She had been his reward. And now his will tied us both back together. That night, I sat by the window, city lights flickering against my reflection. I wasn't angry, not anymore. Anger required care. What I felt was something colder, precision. A week later, I walked into the attorney's conference room. She was already there, Amelia. Time had treated her kindly, at least on the surface. Designer suit, gold watch, no trace of guilt. Her eyes widened when she saw me, alive, whole. "Evan," she whispered, as if the name still belonged to her. I nodded once. Amelia. The lawyer began explaining the terms. The inheritance is conditional upon joint agreement. Both parties must authorize the foundation's establishment. Funds are non-transferable to personal accounts. She smiled politely, playing the role. Of course, I'm so happy we can... I slid a folder across the table. Bank statements, emails, transfer records. She froze. These, I said quietly, are from Dr. Latham's personal account. Payments made to you while I was in treatment. Care to explain? Her lips parted. Evan, that's not what you think. I leaned back. You said I was too expensive to save. Turns out someone was paying you to believe that. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. She reached for the papers, but I stopped her hand midair. You can keep the money, I said, but you'll sign away every right to the inheritance, today. Her eyes filled with panic, the kind that comes when a lie finally suffocates. I watched her crumble, carefully. She signed the release papers with trembling fingers. Each stroke of her pen sounded like a confession. When it was done, I stood. The foundation will carry your name too, I said, as per the will. She looked up, confusion cutting through her shame. But the board will know the truth. I made sure the documents you signed are attached to your name permanently. Every dollar will remind them who you were. She flinched. You can't. I already did. I gathered the files, slipped them back into the envelope, and turned toward the door. Behind me, she whispered something. Maybe my name, maybe a plea. I didn't answer. The lawyer's voice followed, softly, almost reverent. Dr. Latham would have approved. I didn't look back. Outside, the air was cold and clean. The kind of air that tastes like an ending. The world hadn't changed, but something inside me had shifted. Quietly, decisively. 5 years ago, I begged to live for someone who saw me as a burden. Tonight, I lived for no one. The irony was perfect. The man who paid to take me from her had given me the means to outlive them both. As I walked away from the building, I passed my reflection in the glass doors. Hollow-eyed, calm, unrecognizable. I smiled once. Not for victory, not for closure. Just for proof that I had finally become what she once accused me of being. Too expensive to save.